Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Trobradovic, member of SDT Ultrasound Solutions team, and I will use this 30 minutes of your time to share our experience and vision and hopefully inspire you to improve your lubrication practice and, of course, entire reliability practice. As title says, lubrication is not an island. It is not an activity that we can understand as one of the cubicles just doing their job. There is no their job and our job in lubrication. It's one of the gears in reliability mechanism, and drawing interdepartmental borders is not about dividing departments. It's about limiting the benefits, and that's never a good thing. Ultrasound guided condition-based lubrication, our LubExpert strategy, can do so much more. So the question that we should start with is, do we want a solo player or we want a member of the team? But let's see how it starts first. Awareness is something that needs to happen first. This is the only way to begin. There must be a point where you need to say, we have a problem. No matter how many times others will tell you that you have a problem, that really doesn't count. It needs to mature within the organization until the point when brave men and women will say, we have a problem here. I admit I borrowed this one from my friend who works with drug addicts. Drug abuse, alcoholism, yes, it fits here quite well, no offense. Nothing will happen, at least not in a right way, until we admit that we have a problem. So hi, my name is Haris, I have a lubrication problem. You have seen this in movies about A&A groups when people introduce themselves with problems they do have. So okay, when we admit we have a problem, now let's define a problem, because defining a problem is actually making us able to resolve it in the first place. So one good step to do it is just look around. Looking around is a very useful practice. You will be surprised how much you can achieve just by walking around and looking. If you add a little bit of question asking, it will be in a very good position. One of the scenes we often see is that there is management, of course there is always one, and somebody with a grease gun. I intentionally say somebody with a grease gun, not a lube technician, just somebody, and nobody knows who that guy is. As a result, we have a complete disaster. Slow but imminent decay. The problem is that decay is very slow. It doesn't happen as an explosion, it's almost painless, and that means nobody will react until you are completely surrounded by ruins. So somebody with a grease gun is no more than a sad excuse for lubrication practice that doesn't exist. So that's our first problem we can easily see. While you walk and look, you might as well ask a few questions, especially about failures. At the end of the day, we do not lubricate because of friction, wear, heat, and all of the other issues. We lubricate to increase profit. So let's call things the right name. So asking about failures from perspective of protecting our profit is quite a legitimate thing to do. So bearing failed. Okay, that happens. And the normal question would be how much money we lost. When the answer is only cost is a new bearing, that's cheap, that's not a problem, then you know you are in a big trouble. Bearing cost in total failure cost is usually negligible, irrelevant. Then if you ask why did it fail? Again, very legitimate question. And the answer comes out as a bad bearing, old bearing, it's normal, and of course, blame everyone else and try to present it as business as usual, hoping that people will actually stop asking odd questions. This is the point where usually they blame bearing manufacturer. Well, that's an easy thing to do because he's not there. But we should go further with this. Now you can ask who lubricates this asset. Someone, sometimes, and we don't even know which guy is that. So if you have this answer, you know you are in the middle of anarchy. Now, how do we re-grease it? That's quite a legitimate question as well. And I heard a lot of answers, same like you, but one of the interesting answers is that every 2,636 hours, we put 27.6 grams. Well, this is what I call an excuse for doing it wrong. Because it sounds so insanely precise, there is a hope that it will prevent any further questions. Because it looks really fabulous. Really? That precise? You think it's possible? Because formula said so. Well, that's the same formula that says I will lose 20 pounds in 1 week without doing any workout. So it's a snake oil, nothing more than that. Now, if you understand that all the disasters have symptoms and causes, and usually you can find them in that one single walk, keep on walking around and you will see both of them. Both of them are usually very, very painfully clear. If you see pictures like this, or if you see pictures like this, that means you really need to look very carefully, because this is how cost looks like. It's ugly, but it's cost. And then look at the people. Hello there. When you walk, look and ask questions, you will probably run into two type of guys. They are everywhere. I met them in every organization I ever visited. And if one of them holds a grease gun, it usually works as a machine gun. It kills bearings intentionally. So dude number one, unknown production year, but model name is That's Normal. This species is very widely spread and it's adapting to any environment and climate, and a philosophical orientation is fatalist and defeatist. So the famous words are nothing we can do, it's a destiny, that's how it goes, and that's how it always been, and that's how it will always be. Wrong. Now you might run, hello again, now you might run also in dude number two. And dude number two is the model It Wasn't Me. It comes in all ages, again, widely spread, adapts to all environments, and the main behavior characteristics is defensive and accusive. It wasn't me, it was somebody else. Just blame somebody else. So I hope you've probably seen enough and we can move on to defining the problem. Now it's quite clear what the problem is. So no real cost assigned to the failure. So let's not make people angry and talk about huge costs, so somebody will lose a job. So no cost, no problem. And if there's no problem, there will never be a solution for non-existing problem. And that's our problem number one. Let's move to problem number two, lubrication at the end of the food chain. That means it's not important at all. Obviously, from our walk, we can see that. But it's very important in memos and speeches, but not in reality. And that's our problem number two. Let's move on and try to define it even more precise. There is no communication, no involvement, no discipline, and no control whatsoever. There's nothing really to add here. It's very clear and it's very sad. Nobody hears, nobody talks, nobody sees, and everybody thinks they're happy. And it's a big problem. Then we have a wrong approach, quite usually time-based or assumption-based approach. It's an excellent excuse, but it doesn't really make bearings live any longer, and that's the purpose of our job. So it's a problem. Next one is lack of data. It's very funny that we talk about it in 21st century, but while we live in age of data, opinion, feelings, driven lubrication actually stops the rotation and costs us a lot of money. Feelings don't work here. Bring data and don't say anything. It's a problem. Lack of culture. This is a big one, really, and primarily it's not an engineering job. There are a lot of engineers trying to do it, but it's not an engineering job. And it's a topic for an entire year of talking, so I can now only scratch a surface and talk about it some other time. Values, beliefs, behaviors, rituals. Those are 4 elements you need to build. Don't think it's easy or that it works with fancy announcement or just with standard operating procedures. It doesn't work that way. Standard operating procedures are outcome of the good behavior and culture and beliefs. It doesn't generate them. It has nothing to do with that, to be honest. It took 2,000 years to build some cultures. Some cultures vanished after thousands of years. You, me, and everybody around, we only have a lifetime. So we better do it right first time. Start with building values. In this short time, I can only give that first advice. Start building values. Rest we can discuss some other time. But it's a problem. It's a huge problem we need to address. So we listed all the problems and it sounds quite pessimistic. But I would not look at it that way, because being realistic is actually a very good start. And we are here on a very good start to say, okay, this is the problem and let's kick them out one by one. Then when you start implementing a proper lubricatory strategy, you will see the change. From what you have seen, first you need to dedicate lube technicians, trained and responsible. Growth of the problem will be stopped. The problem is still probably there, but it will not be growing. And now you need to make a second step, a lube manager or a lube engineer, call him however you want. If he has a proper strategy and it's showing a good leadership, you can expect problems to start going away. And then probably biggest mistake in implementation that's causing limited benefits is understanding the lube team as an isolated structure. We have 4 or 5 guys there that are doing the job, they have their routine, they have their analysis, and that's it. It doesn't work that way. It will give you certain benefits, but those benefits will be quite limited. What you need now is a champion. Somebody who will connect you with management. Somebody who has a voice up there. It's a two-way connection with management, definitely, and with leadership. Because somebody needs to present the benefits and get the support. If you don't present benefits, you will never get the support. If you don't get support, you will never be able to generate any benefits. So this is a must. No lubrication program can exist without support of the management. It's simply impossible. But if you opened up the lubrication department properly, then miracles can happen. You can basically say that from that moment on, you will be probably able to get a lube room, you will have a good connection with the condition monitoring team, you will be part of reliability team because it's absolutely normal. Then you can count on having a good oil analysis, be involved in failure mode effect analysis, root cause, criticality analysis. Then you will have an impact on purchase as well. Planning and scheduling will ask you quite interesting questions as well. Spare parts, preventive maintenance optimization, and at the end, very often you will be involved in operator-driven reliability. So you see, you are connecting with everyone who is being impacted by lubrication or it's impacting lubrication, because those are all stakeholders in this program and they need to be involved. You need to be in communication with them. More the better, of course. So as you can see, as a result, you are creating a fantastic network of coordination, data sharing, recommendations, and completely aligned action, not as an isolated island, all together. So I'm trying to condense an implementation process here in a few minutes. It's in reality, it's a year at least of nice, elegant work, but very soon results are clearly visible. So first of all, you have a condition-based lubrication through lubricatory strategy. That's considered done. Then you build awareness, discipline, and control on all levels and among everyone, and that's done as well. Then you're using advanced technology, so opinion and maybe and some kind of feelings are out of the picture now. Now you know you are doing the job properly. That's done as well. And then we talk about data, and this is probably the most important topic today. Plenty of good data. To be precise, absolutely nothing is done unless data supports it, and absolutely nothing is done unless it's explained by resulting data. So you can see it's an embrace. The data is all around whatever you do, before and after. It needs to be that way, and we can consider it done as well. Unlike planned lubrication, bearings get lubricated only when needed and exactly as much as needed. So you know that you have that out of the picture, and now they are rotating properly. And then lube team will start growing very rapidly. Knowledge, confidence, capability, and then it will just spread out. It's infectious, because them explaining what they do will have a huge impact on all the other teams, and that's done as well. And now, most important, the patient himself, because we are building a hospital and we need to take care about the patient. How does the patient feel? They rotate in optimal condition, and that's excellent news. And then at the end of the day, probably the only line that should be in our reports is our bearings are making profit, not problems. And that's all that organization at the end of the day cares about. And that's done as well. So it looks something like this, where you have advanced technology that leaves absolutely no doubt while you are doing the job. Then you have software which is not just reading the data, it's a strategy center, because that's what you need. You need a tool in your hand with all data, all events, all details about bearings, detail about each process, sequence of events, what happened, when, how, and why, all alarms, all edit quantities, all indicators coming from ultrasound data, time, date, operator, type of grease, outcome, condition for each and every process, explaining why did you lubricate, was it needed, how much did you do, how much grease did you add, and what was the outcome, and did it stay that way. Actually, everything explained in data, and that's how it needs to be. So that's how sustainable success looks like. We can say that it's, from technological point of view, it's advanced technology, and then you have human point of view, trained, motivated, and recognized team. And as a result, and our primary goal of any lubrication program, the real face of success, increased profit. And that's the real face of success. Once we implement it to this level, and we can just sit back and be very happy, but let's look what our colleagues in condition monitoring are doing. Normally they are doing excellent job. I'm coming from the world condition monitoring as well, and I know a lot of my colleagues very well, and they are doing fantastic job, as expected. So monitoring as many assets as possible, providing data, conclusions, recommendations, confirming good conditions or good repair, preventing catastrophic failures, detecting anomalies, early stage, recommending change of practice or physical improvements. So when you put this all together, it's a lot of hard work, but it's highly valuable work. You can put numbers with a lot of zeros to each and every area that condition monitoring is touching on a daily basis. Now, this is the crucial point when somebody says excellent job. Well, it's very nice to hear that. It sounds very flattering, but it can be a curse. It can be a very, very big problem, and it can be a curse that a lot of condition monitoring teams face. If you are doing a bad job in condition monitoring, sooner or later you'll get fired. Simple as that. But doing average job is like playing politics, keeping the low profile. Do it okay, but not too good. And soon enough, within a year or two, you will become camouflaged within an environment. And if you're lucky, no one will touch you for years. So it's a very boring life, it's a very boring career, but there are people who like that. And unless some major change in management will appear and asking what this guy is doing, nobody will touch you for next 30 years, and you're fine. But that doesn't bring actual results. That's not reality. Many condition monitoring teams, most of them are doing excellent job. And most of them experience this moment. What happens as a result of doing a great job. So somebody will come, pat you on the shoulder and say, hey, you're doing a great job, and we have great plans for you, and we have some expectations as well. Cover more assets, cover more failure modes, provide more data to reliability for RCA and RCE. So that means you are doing it so good, and we believe in your program so much that we want you to cover more assets. And at this point, we become quite aware of the fact that engineers are not really good politicians, usually, most of them, because this is the next sentence. You're doing a fantastic job, we want you to do more. And then in small print, do it with the same resources. It doesn't work that way. It will be a miracle if you get more people on the team, so don't hold your breath for that. So there will be the same team, but you need to do more. So bottom line, let's make it simple and not spend too much time on that crying, because that will not change anything. It's a mission impossible unless you call in the cavalry, and unless you call some hidden resources from your good friends. And if you remember what we discussed before, what we actually achieved. We achieved Lube team who's doing a fantastic job eliminating one of the biggest root cause in bearing industry, but also delivering huge amount of data. That's what we already achieved. and providing a lot of data. So maybe that can help us. Connection of the lubrication with the reliability team is natural, or it's supposed to be. It should be. That is a whole additional topic that to explain the positive impact to reliability, not the topic of this presentation. Now I want to focus on relationship between lube and condition monitoring. And that's what's interesting for condition monitoring from their perspective. First step of integration has already been done. So thousands of data is provided by Loop team. Basically, complete ultrasound condition monitoring trending. Because condition-based lubrication is doing exactly that. Ultrasound condition monitoring trending, and then making a decision about lubrication. So trend is here. It's absolutely the same trend you would be looking at in condition monitoring. But on top of that, you have something very interesting, and these are two interesting trend lines. Behavior of the bearings before lubrication and after lubrication, and that's really an added value. And that's already there. So with what we achieved, we delivered up to 20% more available time in condition monitoring program. Same people, more available time. To cover more assets, of course, to cover more failure modes, to investigate deeper, to analyze data easier, and also because having before and after lubrication data is extremely useful in any kind of analysis. So first step of integration is already there. And now we should make this integration full, because our friends from condition monitoring, they need help. They need cavalry. They need some hidden resources to increase their capabilities. So for that we need a very strong connection with condition monitoring, and basically we need to deliver more benefits. So let's ask ourselves a question. What else can Lube team do for condition monitoring while doing their job? I'm trying to be very precise. While doing their job is very important sentence. There is no point in trying to release the stress from one department just by putting it on another department. It doesn't make much sense. So it needs to be while doing their job. So data is there, trend is there, alarms as well, and condition assessment is there. So what can we add more that doesn't increase cost, which is really a critical work? Let's include dynamic data. Let's include time waveform and spectrum to be collected by Loop team during their work. So during their regular work, with no additional time, no additional work, no additional training, and let's be a little bit arrogant. So let's say we want only additional benefit. If you want to make this integration full, we also need to look another side. Let's set up the entire ultrasound condition monitoring in one platform. So that means that all data collected by Loop team will be available to condition monitoring team, and that's the whole point of what we are talking about. But also don't forget where the huge value lies. All condition monitoring data is available to Loop team, because Loop team will be able to understand lubrication behavior much better if you know what's going on with the asset. So this is how it looks like. Simply by doing lubrication in a proper way, we have complete ultrasound condition monitoring trending. We have separate trend of before and after grease replenishment. We have KPIs, and we have outcomes and details of each individual process. What happens, why, and how. And then there is more to deliver. With no change in what Loop team is actually doing, with no additional time or work, there is time waveform and spectrum before and after grease replenishment for each individual process. So you have data which is ready to be analyzed before lubrication and after lubrication. This is exactly the data condition monitoring data. So you cannot say this is something different. You should not be saying this is something that we deliver as a surrogate. It's not. It is actually condition monitoring data, ultrasound condition monitoring data. Only difference is that now it's collected by Loop team and delivered to condition monitoring team. So it's created on one place, it's used on another place. We all know how high value it is, And let's be arrogant again, it happens at zero cost. And this is exactly what we needed. So just imagine, just a small reminder of maybe in this particular case I'll be talking about what happened a year ago. Until quite recently it was very simple. Read the timetable, squeeze the grease and hope it's okay. So we are doctors in a hospital and nobody even asks a patient, how do you feel? So there is no data about bearing. And of course, if there's no data about bearing behavior, there's absolutely nothing to deliver. Poor way to increase bearing reliability, definitely, but also there is absolutely no data to offer to any of the stakeholders. And of course, the lubrication department will be isolated because there's nothing to offer. Right now, we are in a completely different situation. My condition monitoring team detects anomalies on time. That's what they do, and that's really great. My loop team now makes sure that the big group of those anomalies actually never happen. Maintenance is about dealing with things that happen. Reliability is about making them never happen. So if you look at this, these two teams, they have the same target, they are doing the same job on absolutely same assets. So the question I will ask is really natural. Is that the same team? Should they be a same team? Well, why not? Maybe not in my lifetime, or maybe in 5 years and 2 years in 1 year. We don't know that. Depends on how people will structurize this. They don't necessarily need to formally be one department, but just by creating this strong connection and data flow and aligned actions, they will be functioning as one department because they have the same responsibility at the end of the day. So just an example from implementation in Southeast Europe that happened about a year ago. It's pretty fresh data. Now we made some analysis. Loop technician, one person, my friend now, takes care of 700 bearing monthly, treating them to perfection, as already proven in dramatic reliability improvement from first implementation stage. Now, additionally, he delivers more than 1,400 data into ultrasound trends, which is incredible value. Additionally, he is also adding 1,400 ultrasound time waveforms and spectrum, and that is being delivered on a silver platter to CM team. Plus trends, alarms, assessment, all of that done per month, one person. And this is the added value. Now, important thing to consider is that his daily routine hasn't changed. It's absolutely the same. This additional value is coming out of thin air, let's call it that way, because he's doing the same thing as he was doing before in implementation stage 1. So if you put it in a different perspective, what he is doing right now is actually one additional person to condition monitoring team, because he is doing the job of one person from condition monitoring team and delivering it. So if I remember well my own words from a few minutes ago, that is exactly what condition monitoring needed. Some help, some new resources, and here is the Calvary. Our loop team is the Calvary that can help condition monitoring. Not only can, it should. So what is the value? If you ever thought of any reliability improvement program, I'm sure you very well know what is the value of freeing up the time of one condition monitoring engineer. This is what we always cry so much about, and coming to management saying we need more people, and you never get more people. Now you get a time of one condition monitoring engineer completely freed up to cover more assets, to cover more failure mode, to go deeply into analysis, to have available time. In war terms, if you remember World War I, loop team builds a first line of defense, and in this case it's Maginot Line. As a conclusion, I would like to send a message: do it right, and do it right the first time. Pick a strategy that multiplies your resources. We never have enough resources. It's not enough today to say I'm doing the job well. Yes, you are doing the job well within your department. What are you doing for everyone else? Can your job help everyone else, and vice versa? So that's the only way you can achieve targets that are becoming, let's be honest, higher and higher every day. It's like a donkey and a carrot. The more we achieve, the more the targets move further. So I hope that my title, that lubrication is not an island, now makes complete sense. And I certainly hope that it will help you to improve your lubrication practice and your condition monitoring practice, and as a result, your reliability practice. I thank you for your attention. I thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer all the questions that will come. Thank you.